Coping mechanisms aren't problems to solve. They're protections the subconscious built when your client needed them most. I'm Alexandra Janelli. I've been practicing hypnotherapy out of my New York City office for 16 years. And after all this time, the one thing I'm most certain of is this. The practitioners who actually move the work are the ones who stop trying to remove the coping mechanism and start understanding what it built. In the last 2 episodes, I made the case that the presenting issue is almost never the actual issue, and that the behavior a client walks in trying to change is what the subconscious learned earlier showing up now. This episode is about what those behaviors actually are. If you've been practicing for a while, you've probably watched a client quit smoking and start overeating, or stop biting their nails and start pulling their eyelashes. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that happens and what to do about it. This is taken from Chapter 17 of Advanced Hypnosis, my 500-plus page training manual for practitioners working past the script. The full chapter goes deeper into the neurological reality of pattern formation and how to work with behaviors that look irrational from the outside. Link below if you want the full framework. Okay. Let's get into today's session. There's a reason your client's coping mechanism keeps coming back even when they hate it. It worked. The behavior your client walked in, wanting to stop, did a job at some earlier point in their life. It reduced anxiety, created predictability, protected against a threat the system was tracking, or earned belonging in a room where belonging was conditional. Sometimes all of those at once. The subconscious doesn't drop behaviors when they stop being useful. It holds on to them because they worked at the moment they formed. And as I covered in the last episode, the subconscious doesn't check for relevance, it checks for familiarity. A coping mechanism that worked once becomes a neural pathway. The more times the brain runs that pathway, the more efficient and automatic it gets. The wiring is already there. The route is already built, and that's why familiarity wins over relevance every time. That's why a client knows the behavior isn't serving them and still can't stop. The conscious mind has moved on. The system that built the behavior hasn't been told a new story yet. When you understand the behavior as adaptive rather than broken, the work changes. You stop trying to eliminate it and start working with the need that built it. There's one more force that keeps coping mechanisms locked in place, and it's the one most clients don't realize is happening: shame. When a client picks at their fingers and believes that means they're messy, anxious, or not put together, the shame attached to the behavior increases stress. Increased stress increases the need for soothing, the coping mechanism returns, and the shame returns with it. It's circular. The shame doesn't reduce the behavior, it reinforces it. This is why your client comes in saying they've tried everything. They've shamed themselves, judged themselves, made themselves the problem. None of it worked because the energy went into self-evaluation instead of self-understanding. Your job isn't to challenge their shame head on. It's to get curious about it. What makes you believe this is such a bad habit? How do you see other people who do this? What does it mean about you if this continues? Those aren't confrontational questions, they're clarifying ones. They surface the identity layer that has fused with the behavior. Once that layer is visible, the behavior can move. Without it, the client stays stuck in the loop. Their own shame keeps feeding. So if shame doesn't remove the behavior, what does? The first step is understanding what the behavior is actually doing for them. A smoker isn't just addicted to nicotine. The cigarette is doing several jobs at once. It's a ritual. The morning coffee with the cigarette, the break after a hard meeting, the pause before going home. It's a companion. The smoker who steps outside during a party they didn't want to attend isn't just chasing nicotine. They're getting a moment alone. It's an identity. I'm someone who smokes. That sentence carries meaning. It signals a kind of person. Removing it removes a piece of how the client sees themselves and a way they've learned to cope. Most practitioners try to remove the cigarette without understanding any of those layers. The session ends, The client quits for 2 weeks, and then the subconscious quietly fills the gap with the next available behavior. They start overeating or scrolling for 2 hours before bed, or they stop biting their nails and start pulling their eyelashes. The behavior changes. The need stays the same. You can't remove a coping mechanism. You can only replace it. And until you know what it was actually providing, the subconscious will fill the gap for you with another behavior just as costly. This is also why willpower alone almost never works. The mechanism isn't a willpower problem. I think of it like a beach ball held underwater. The harder you push it down, the more force it gathers to rise back up. That's what willpower does. The client tells themselves to stop, shames themselves when they fail, and increases the pressure. The pressure reinforces the very mechanism they're trying to remove. Emotions don't resolve because they're criticized. The work isn't to wrestle the beach ball underwater longer. The work is to lift it out of the water and look at it. Ask what it's doing here. Ask what it's protecting. Ask when it started and how it helped. That examination reduces shame and increases clarity. When there's clarity, real choice becomes possible. This is the difference between a client who's still fighting the pattern after years of effort and a client who sees the pattern clearly enough to update it. The first one is exhausted. The second one is free to choose. Once you've identified what the behavior was providing, the next move is replacement. And this is where most practitioners get it wrong. They aim too shallow. If smoking gave someone a sense of pause, companionship, and identity, suggesting they chew gum instead doesn't address any of those layers. The suggestion is too small. The subconscious recognizes the mismatch and quietly refuses it. The replacement has to match the depth of what the behavior provided. Did it offer relief? Then you're looking for what creates relief in this client specifically, not in general. Did it offer pause? Then the replacement has to give the system permission to stop, not just substitute the activity. Did it offer identity? Then you're working at the identity layer, not the behavior layer. Here's what matters most. The replacement isn't a concept, it's a felt experience. What does it feel like to not need the cigarette and know you're in control? What does it feel like to wake up rested and walk into the morning feeling clear? You're not selling the client an idea. You're helping them feel what life looks like without the old pattern. That felt experience is what the subconscious responds to. The concept can land in the conscious mind. The feeling has to land in the system that built the behavior in the first place. There's one more piece, and it's the foundation everything else rests on: acceptance. When a client can say, "This developed to protect me," instead of "there's something wrong with me," the nervous system relaxes. The energy that was being used to fight the pattern becomes available for updating it. Acceptance isn't resignation, it's honesty about origin. This is the layer most certifications skip. They teach you to remove behaviors. They don't teach you to listen to what the behavior was doing for the client, ask what would feel equally protective but more aligned with who they are today, and guide the work from there. Once a client sees that the behavior once worked, they stop fighting themselves. That's when the work can actually move forward. So here's what to take from this episode. Coping mechanisms aren't defects, they're adaptations. They persist because they worked and because the neural pathway they built is the most familiar route the system has. Shame reinforces them rather than removing them. You can't take a coping mechanism away. You can only replace it. And the replacement has to match the depth of what the behavior was providing. And none of that work moves until acceptance is in place. In the next episode, I'll walk through chapter 18, which is about timing and readiness. When a client says they want to change and the system isn't ready yet, that's not resistance. That's information. We'll cover what to read for and how to work with it. If you want the full framework before then, the training manual is quietly on sale now on Amazon with the link below. If this changed how you think about the work, subscribe so you can keep learning along with me. See you all next week.